Hi, I'm meteorologist Mike Ottenweller with the Alaska Pacific River Forecast Center, and I'm here to bring you this week's 2023 Alaska Breakup Outlook. As a reminder, always a good idea to be flood ready, especially this time of year when we move into breakup season here in early May. It's a great idea to start thinking about how to create your communication plan and your evacuation plan. This plan should be including of your family, your friends, and your pets. You also want to think about an emergency kit, some type of a first aid kit with your any prescription medication and any special food needs that you might have, something that you can grab quickly on your way out the door. It's also a good time to think about moving any vehicles up to higher ground. This is the time of year where flooding potential is a concern, and so any vehicles in low-lying areas could be at risk. Know the risk for your area. We're going to talk about the areas that are in a heightened risk area, but just in general, know if there's a potential ice jam in your area and if you are in a flood-prone area. And then be notified. How are you going to get information from your emergency managers? Do you have a NOAA weather radio? If you don't know, check out ready.gov. It's a great resource for finding out how to be prepared in case of emergency. So as you can see behind me here, this is Eagle as of today, and you can start to see some of the snow melting, some of the ice thinning just a little bit, and maybe even some of the darkening open water starting to show some signs of breakup. So let's talk about what we're going to be looking at today in terms of breakup. Of course, the three factors that we have considered in making the breakup projections: snowpack, how much water's in that snow and where's it going to go; the ice thickness and strength are critical; spring weather patterns. Our late April and early May temperatures are huge factors in how they control how fast that snow melts, the thermal condition of the ice and the integrity of that ice as it prepares to break up, and the type of breakup. Is it going to be a mechanical breakup that is much more dynamic and hazardous, or will it be a thermal breakup that is just generally slow and in place, smushing out of the ice? As we've talked about the last couple weeks, still an above average flood threat for most of Alaska this year. Hard to identify any specific site at a specific time, but in general, the flood threat due to the delayed breakup is higher than normal. So what do we have in terms of that snowpack and how much water is in that snowpack? This map is a percentage of how much water is in that snowpack. And as you can see here, it's generally normal to slightly above normal. We don't see numbers as high as we did last year at this time where we were setting records, but generally normal to above normal, generally about 100 to 150% here from the central and the upper Yukon basins, about 150% out for the Kuskokwim Basin, and that runs on the same level as last year. And then for the Yukon territories, about 100 to 150% out there as well. The only spot that was really below normal was here west of the Parks Highway in the Chulitna Basin, where we actually see conditions either slightly below normal or right at normal, depending on the side of the highway. Here's a quick update, a little bit more of an updated graphic. This is just how much snow water is out there for this time of year. And the reason that this map shows higher percentages is because we've moved later in the year when we expect that snow to melt, but it hasn't melted due to those cold temperatures. So the percentages go up as we go into early May. So generally seeing things around 100 to 200%. But again, not a whole lot more snow to be concerned about. It's just later this time of year. In terms of our ice and where we have concerns on where things froze up, a couple spots that we are noticing along the upper Yukon, we had some jumbled ice reported near Eagle, so that's an area of concern. We also have a high freeze-up jam near Buckland, and that's another area that we're watching. And then along the Kuskokwim River near Aniak and Kalskag, that's where we also had reports of a freeze-up jam. And so those are three areas of concern. One spot that has lower than normal ice is McGrath, and so we see things a little bit thinner there, potential to break up a little bit easier and a little bit sooner. Think twice before you go on the ice. I don't think there's anything more that needs to be said there. If you were in Alaska this past month, you know that temperatures were below normal. This is how far below normal we were. Generally about -10 to -15 if you got north of the Alaska Range, about 5 degrees below normal if you were south. For the 11 to 17 May time frame, still expecting some more of that below normal here for southwest Alaska. Above normal conditions, though, are starting to move in towards the headwaters of the Yukon, so that will be an area that we target as a potential first breakup spot. Village threat potential, still the same as last week. Our target areas are still Buckland, Circle, Aniak, and Kalskag, and a lot of that is because of those reasons we talked about in terms of where their water was when it froze up this past part of the winter. So let's get now to our breakup timing. We can still see equal chances along the north slope for the Sag River area, but quite a bit late here for Southwest Alaska, 6 to 9 days, and these numbers have really stayed on track from where they were last week, 5 to 7 days as you move towards the Tanana and the Yukon rivers, and so again, quite a bit late breakup. These numbers are all still looking to be on track as we head into the early part of May. Where our breakup has already started to occur, a couple spots of open water there along the Nenana and the Tanana River and off into the Yukon territories as well, and maybe even just a little bit of open water that we see down by Nikolai. So our Yukon River at Dawson, here's what we look like. Started to see some open leads there. Off towards the Yukon River at Eagle. Here's the Yukon River at Eagle over a 5-day time lapse from April 27th through May 2nd. So again, starting to see the snow melt and starting to see some ice darkening, potentially even some open leads starting to occur there at Eagle along the Yukon. Here's a 5-day time lapse of the Tanana River at Fairbanks. And we'll loop that one more time, starting to see things slowly start to show some signs of the ice melting and definitely the snow melting, those footprints disappearing. Of course, everyone's favorite, the Nenana tripod, and you can see there the degradation of the ice in that area, so we are keeping a close eye on that at this time. Here's the Kuskokwim River at Nikolai, just a little bit of open water. This is an inverted color map from a satellite, so the red is vegetation, the white is snow or ice, and this little bit of open dark color here, Nikolai would be over here, so this is a critical area that we watch to start to time out when breakup might be occurring. Here comes the Kuskokwim River at Sleepmute, 5 days of time lapse there. I'll let that loop one more time. You can start to see even things in that area starting to show some signs of wear and tear on that ice, things weakening and slowly melting. Here's that same ice jam that we talked about last week. That's that ice jam from the Kalskag area where we had the ice freeze up in a jumbled fashion early in the winter. Here's our Skwentna River, starting just to see some open leads there as well. And the Copper River at Glen Allen starting to slowly show some signs of opening, nothing extreme, but starting to see some of that stuff pop out of the satellite image there. And so this brings us to our last few images here where we can see the Yukon River at Galena as of today and starting to see a little bit more darkening of the snow, darkening of the ice. If you need any more information, you can go to weather.gov/APRFC. You can check out our graphical breakup outlook maps at APRFC/flood potential, and we would love to have your observations. We need those to help us to know when the ice might break up, when it might go out, and when we might have a potential for an ice jam and a flood threat. So you can get in touch with us in all those different ways. We really appreciate hearing from our communities. We thank you for the observations that you've already sent in, and we look forward to working with you and keeping you safe for the rest of the flood season. Thanks for joining us today.